the March,
How you doing, Paul?
March 10th, 2025 meeting of the Cambridge City Town Council. And we'll start by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Sherry, if you'll take roll.
Yeah. Jim McClain.
Present.
Mike Amy.
I'm here.
Debbie McGinley. Here. Gary Cole.
Present.
Jim King. Yes. Awesome. All here. And Bob's on the phone.
And has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from last meeting?
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to accept the minutes from the last meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then, has everybody looked at the claims?
I did. I make a motion to accept the claims.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to accept the claims for the month. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And finally, the financials.
I'll make a motion to accept those also.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to accept the financials for the month. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we're good. Moving on, we don't have a public hearing today. So we'll move on to our guests, Arnold and Ann Boyd.
Yeah, we represent the crime watch here in town, and we've been talking to the police department and the things that something we wanted to do this year, and they came up with they needed some stop sticks, the things you just stop throughout for the traffic. So we needed a couple of those, so that was our project. So with our memberships dues and some donations, we got a check for $1,045 to cover the cost of those.
Oh,
Nice.
wow.
And for everybody else, we do meet the first Thursday. Anybody would like to come to the meeting? And it's $5 for a person, $10 for a business or a couple, family, and glad to have you. 6:30 at the Goley Senior Center.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
And we'll need a motion to approve this
Thank you.
donation of $1,045.
I'll make a motion to accept the donation of $1,045.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to accept this donation. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you to the Crime Watch.
All right, your receipt tomorrow.
Continue to do good work. We appreciate it.
Thanks. So let's just move them on up to the, let's just read it.
Okay, so I know we have other visitors here about another issue, so we're going to bring that up to the top. Revisit the closing of Foot Street for Farmers Market. And I don't know where we want to start with this.
Let's just start with Paul. Since he's in the front row.
All right, you're up then.
We'll pick a corner to stand in.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Here we go. Catch my breath. Maybe a little further. Yeah.
Sure.
If you don't know me, I grew up here. I graduated in Lincoln. My folks used to have a store on Main Street. The True Value Hardware, if you remember that in the 70s and 80s, that was my dad. Grandpa started the vending out in Pershing. You probably know Fred Fowler, Mick Fowler, my uncles. That's my 30-second background. Most of my adult life I've lived outside of here, Utah, and came back. My wife and I recently purchased the National Road Antique Mall. So, and that's where my concern for coming tonight comes in. One of the, I guess, a big concern I have as a shop owner here, someone that owns brick and mortar in town now, parking is an issue. And if we want to continue to grow, you know, my challenge is going to be the shop owners to prioritize that parking out on Main, where we find better places to park, maybe off Main, make better uses of lots and things where we can park our cars, leave it open for clients. Something that I don't think we consider enough, particularly when we go to close something, parking or shut that off, is that every one of those parking stalls probably means $15,000 or $20,000 revenue for our downtown area. So every time we close one, we're taking just a little revenue from everybody. And if we want to continue drawing things in, I mean, in today's world, we're pulling people from all over the place. When I survey people who come to our shop, they're coming from Ohio, from Kentucky, from all over Indiana and these places. We don't have a bus, we don't have taxis, so they're coming in a car, and we need to prioritize having places for folks to come downtown and shop and have a place to park a car. So that makes every time we want to close down spaces for several months at a time a big deal. On the particular corner of Foot Street, my concerns are congestion, safety. We load and unload there all the time, all during the day, clients and vendors do. So if we're going to close off that part of that parking, we're going to have a congestion. Trying to load and unload, that's a safety issue. We're restricting the access to the police department. We're restricting the access to the park during baseball season. It's just, it's like the main artery. And to make it a little worse, I'm excited, but we also have Legato's open tomorrow. They're going to be open there in the morning with their coffee and bakery right there in that same corner. We're already there in between the pizza place and number 9, which I love both of those places, but they take every parking stall there is. And so you're talking about 3 of the highest volume things in town right there in that corner. So to come into that corner and start shutting that down, you're going to hurt all of us a little bit, but you got a safety issue, traffic issue, access to police and park issue that compound that a little bit. Now let's flip the coin a little. I noticed that the town has a really nice square right across the street that I think we should celebrate and we should use more. I mean, it's not the biggest square I've seen, but it's a square and it's something we have. And I think if we start celebrating that and having these type of temporary events there, people will know to come look there. They'll be looking for it when they come in town. They'll know where to find it. I just think it's a great idea to have that in the square versus shutting off parking in the street. But I think the parking's not taken. I guess what set me off a little bit was in my conversation about why we chose that corner. Part of the feedback I got was, well, we can't interfere with someone else's parking. What? We're prioritizing shop owners or something? We can't close theirs, we can close mine? Didn't set well. I think it's all shop owners, all that parking's priority. And as someone who's invested money in town, along with other people owning brick and mortar, as someone who's served 8 years on a planning commission in the city, you don't prioritize a temporary, transient business, no insult, but you don't prioritize that over your brick and mortar, who's paying your property tax, who's paying your sales tax, who's hiring people year-round and supporting the town through donations, baseball league or whatever that is. You take care of them. So, I did make a note or two. As a side note, I hope we include Amish and some other people in the market. They're great members of our community. Anyway, daily parking, there's never enough parking. We're going to be more overloaded with Legato's, and I hope that they just bust the streets up, with their volume, right? And I think they will. That is our loading and unloading space. That particular building does not, the old Danners building does not have a side entrance or rear entrance to that main floor where people can take things in and out. I wish it did. Maybe someday we can change that, but right now everything goes in and out that front door. And it has, there's no other way to do it. So that corner is being loaded and unloaded all day. And if you make more congestion there, you're going to have people stopping in traffic or double parking or doing some other crazy thing that people do, so it's a safety issue. Obviously the inconvenience. And then we ourselves are expanding into the basement and increasing our own business. And we'll be opening up that basement side door, which also opens up into that exact same area. So, questions? Did I leave anything out?
Wait, you brought up several points here, and they're good points, and I think they're worth discussing. But I think we have to look at them individually, right? Because you brought up a lot of them, right? So, if we look at them separately, starting with safety, right? So, I would point that to our police department and get their input on that.
Apparently I'm standing in front of somebody. Didn't mean to.
I mean, you know, the past things that we've had there, shutting it down, we've not had any issues. That's never to say that it can't happen, but I can't remember a time where it was an issue. Any safety concerns as far as the parking and things like that, so.
Well, you've always told
They
them.
maintain me a fire lane.
Yeah.
I have to on both sides. I have to have 20 feet to get the fire trucks through at all times. And they've been good about doing that.
So, and then related to that, part of your safety concern is the loading and unloading, correct?
Yeah, because if that's occupied, what people do, you're gonna have someone pulling up there wanting to load, unload, at some point, blocking part of that fire lane or blocking part of the traffic.
Well, first of all, they should never block part of the fire lane, even at any time. So, to me, this is something that can be worked out, right? Because there can be made space available to make sure there's ample space there to load and unload.
No, but I think you're shutting the whole street down, so you're not gonna have traffic. You're not gonna want cars pulling in there to load and unload at that particular time because the street's supposed to be shut down. So you don't want traffic driving through there.
The only traffic that should ever come through would be emergency vehicles, that's it.
That's the way I would see it.
But isn't there a way we could make space available there without pulling in?
Well, I don't recall if we decided if we're going all the way corner to corner.
So we're not.
So half of the street's still open from Bob Beaver's office basically north. There's still room for loading and unloading there. Still parking places there. You know, the paint place isn't open on Saturdays generally. So that's not gonna interfere with them. Bob's place is not open on Saturday.
The tattoo.
He has some, but I think.
Not till
Tattoo doesn't open until noon. Or
Yeah, so later in the day.
So they
but-
can use the parking spaces, is that
Well,
what you're
it's
saying?
public street, so.
We can't use the tattoo place, he's got private parking on that.
Well, I'm just talking about on the street.
On the street, it's not gonna affect the parking on the street?
Yes, he's going to affect the parking on the street. He's going to occupy that parking alongside our building right there. That all alongside of our building is where this event's taking place. I think when you talk about a one-day event, it's minimal on these impacts of safety net. When you're talking about a 5-month event, every Saturday, that's a major impact. That's nearly half the year. And I'll just say it out loud, it's going to affect my business.
Well, it used to be there at the mini park. Is there a reason why it can't be at
That's
the
my
mini park?
question, why can't we put it back there?
Yeah, there was a reason, but I don't remember exactly what it was, it's been a while.
Troy, you want to address that?
You can refresh us.
So the numbers over time for the farmer's market. So again, the farmer's market is sponsored by the Cambridge City Main Street. That's who sponsors the farmer's market. And the number of vendors slowly deteriorated down over time to where I think, Ben, when you watched it, was there one, maybe two vendors when you did it 2 years ago?
Yeah, there was
The
one,
Amish couple.
one or two.
Yeah, that
on
would
an
count.
average.
And as we try to grow that event, the problem is there is no way, like a normal farmer's market is in an area that's closed, whether or not it's a public park, whether or not it's the square area where there's ample parking to pull in as a vendor and sell from the back of your vending area. That's why we moved to the open lot at American Legion, which is a private lot. We got permission to be able to do that. That's owned by the Portmans for 1 year. And we could pull in and the vendors could set up directly behind. And that's our intent with doing it north of, on Foot Street, is the vendors could.
Let me interrupt you just for a minute. Where is that lot you're talking about? For me, you all know, but I don't.
Behind the
Is it
outdoor
on Main
market.
somewhere?
No,
No.
it is not.
It is,
Okay.
you
Keep going,
can,
try.
Yeah, it's next to American Legion. It's the gravel lot that's next to American Legion on Church Street.
East of the Legion.
Across from Duncan's.
So we can't grow as we try to get more activities downtown that draws more people to come downtown, both local, which is the biggest concern for a food vacancy issue, as well as tourists that are coming here. We need to be able to entice more vendors to be a part of that. And there isn't that room at the square. For instance, I happen to grow watermelons. I can't unload 50 watermelons by hand and take them to the area that you're suggesting we go to as a vendor. There isn't area for me to pull in and unload or be able to unload 50 watermelons. So that's why it's not there, is because there isn't room for vendors and to grow that opportunity. Would love to be able to have 10 to 15 vendors and be able to continue to grow where we have it suggested for this year, as well as, you know, being able to tie into that downtown part of the business. We're excited there's a coffee shop going on, because those early morning people that will come for fruits and vegetables will buy coffee. They asked for coffee at our event last year, and we didn't have that. To have baked goods there, it's right there. So that's the reason. And then I'll step one further. I am not suggesting that we close the street off at the street itself. We leave the sidewalk open, and we don't start setting up as a vendor until the first legal parking spot. And the area that you're referring to that you park is an illegal parking spot. Your vendors are loading up in 2 illegal parking spots. They park to the south of the very first angle parking. They park there, and then they park parallel to the sidewalk. As that's where your biggest area of loading and unloading, and that's an illegal area because it inhibits to be able to make that right turn off of 40. That's why when they put in the marked parking spots, it recessed so far back in the street because of that. And what I suggest is that I put one barrier that closes the street down from the turning lane of 40 as you're heading west. And then we put 2 more barriers where we're actually going to start back there. And theoretically, you could pull in and load and unload in this same illegal parking spot like you always do. And then you'd be able to turn on the closed street and go back out.
We need to address the parking spot that we're talking about.
Correct.
It actually was gonna happen this summer, when they fill the position that, you know, that needs to be filled, but that curb is actually painted yellow. It's wore off over time. And so that's been going on for a while. And that curb needs to be, because it does create a problem when people turn the corner. Unfortunately, you inherited that, but if there's a car already sitting at a stoplight going south and somebody goes to turn and then somebody's in there unloading, it creates a problem. So that needs to be addressed regardless.
And that also goes why there's an extra spot where people park illegally in that same right turn to get into the alley. There's cars that park.
I guess I haven't noticed that one.
They park north of there as well. So, you know, in essence, there's 8 parking spots that are being used. There's only 5 legal parking spots in this area next to National Antique Road building.
You know, I can say where the tattoo shop is now, that fire hydrant gets blocked all day, every day.
It usually has a cone in front of it.
Now, because the tattoo shop put it there.
Yeah, I don't see it blocked too much because of the cone.
So my personal thought, you know, some of these issues can be worked out, right? So if Troy can help work out where you can get some loading and unloading there safely, it'd be helpful. Yeah, we're using up some parking spots, but the thought is that we're also bringing people into town. And that's not a bad thing.
Well, I see a contradiction in that statement from this point. For bringing people in town, why is it incumbent, why is it absolutely necessary to take the most congested, busiest corner in town so people can find it? Because they're coming to town for that, they'll find it. But if they're really just taking that because of the traffic area and inflicting some pain on existing businesses, they're not coming here for that. They're doing it YME too, which is fine. I get it. I understand that. Except, again, if there's a place we can put it without interfering with the busiest intersection in town, we're ahead because people are going to bring their cars. And parking is a premium. I think we're too casual here saying, well, it's just 5 parking spaces I'm taking. It's just 6 I'm taking. We're too casual with that. I think that's a mistake. Those parking spaces are worth more than 100 grand and retail to everybody up and down Main Street. Because people aren't walking here from Centerville. They're not walking here from Muncie. They're driving their car.
I do a lot of walking, and I see that those are very well-used places because people want to dive in. They want to park that way.
They're very well used.
They don't want to parallel park.
It's not. They don't just use it for me. They use it for everybody.
Just so we know, there are 67 parking spots outside of these 5 within a 1-block area from that corner. So it's not like
we're talking 10% of the parking though in downtown.
I'm just saying within 1 block. Within 2 blocks, there's even more.
But we're taking 10% of that parking with one thing. and it's not a permanent thing. And it's taking from a permanent thing that pays taxes and sales taxes and employees year round. I have a hard time prioritizing it that way. I really do.
Can we get the hours of the farmer's market? I don't know if I'm allowed to speak, but can we just get the hours of the farmer's market?
It's from 9 to noon.
Tanya first.
I have, I think it is something that can be resolved if we can just come to a compromise on some things. But my question is, I host 2 events in town, and one of them, I completely block Foot Street, and it is packed all the way down to Front Street. So I even go farther.
But is it a day event?
It's one day event, but that will the farmer's market be in there? My question is, what is our thought process with the farmer's market being there for the events that we do have in town, which I think are 3?
No, there's 2 that will be on the same time. It doesn't start until the jar show gets, so it doesn't start till the second Saturday in June.
Okay.
The jar show is in the park.
Yeah.
It would be both of your 2 events. So the Artisan Fair in July.
Artisan doesn't block Foot Street.
But I did reserve that. Main Street did reserve that if it grew when I was here at the last meeting. And then it's the Junk in the Trunk show.
Yes.
And then we do not do Canal Days. And
September you don't do?
we don't do the farmers market on Canal Days, and we end the weekend before the fall festival.
Okay, so it's just one event.
It's just one event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my question is on that one, can we just move during the events then? Can we just move you back to the next? Because I'll be happy to move my vendors that I have that parks there every year, that's next to Front Street, coming this way to the tattoo shop, and move you there and block you off, and then I can move my vendors there. But the frontage of that is real important for me and my.
I would still put the same signage, the waving banner signs that I intend to put there, I would still put there, even though you'll have vendors there.
Okay.
We can move back. We were going to try to do the same overlapping time as you were, 9 to noon.
I'd love that.
But we would go to 9 to 2 if we were in that front spot. They might, if we're further out, they might be able to keep them.
But I would butt up to that,
Correct.
so it would be completely
Correct.
full, and they've usually stayed
Yep.
till 3 o'clock when
Correct.
my events are.
Yep.
So if we're in agreement
Yep.
that you're willing to do that for mine,
Yep.
then can we not do that every Saturday and move you back to Front Street, coming forward to the alley?
I'd be willing.
And then his
I'd be willing to
parking
do
would be
to give that a try for sure. I mean, that's just not the way we propose to close it down, because we typically close it down at Foot Street and we go.
I mean, you'd still be on Foot Street, so your advertisement would still catch them.
So-
it would just be back just a little bit
Correct.
further.
And I'd be okay with giving that a try to help make a compromise. The problem is going to be is that it becomes even more important that that turn lane coming into the alley will be the only way to get out of that if you turn into Foot Street. And you'll have to take every traffic. If we don't close that off, everybody that goes north on Foot Street will have to make the right turn into the alley.
Okay, see on mine, I'm blocked completely from Foot Street,
Yeah.
but for his, yeah, they would have to use the alley.
Isn't the alley one way
Yeah,
west?
now
or
it's one way
south?
this way.
Yeah,
that
it's
way.
one way west.
One way west.
It goes west.
I mean,
It's supposed to be one way to the west, yeah.
So what happens? What happens?
But they don't.
Well,
That's a signage issue, because when I was doing my counter, they sure don't.
That's a signage issue.
Yeah.
so what happens if it's simply on South Foot instead of North Foot? It's not in the square. Why can't that be?
He said it's a signage, so we don't have signage.
And then the park would be available as extra space if it grew.
No, he's suggesting we move entirely south
Right.
of US 40.
Right. And
Still
then
on the-
that would give you
To
the
be-
same footprint on the road, plus you'd have the opening of the park next to it for people who didn't mind.
Aren't you still taking parking?
I'm still taking parking, and that parking is there residential in that south of
yeah.
south. Those apartments are there. That's one thing. The second thing is it's a little bit easier to close the street when those businesses don't open until later. I don't know if the coffee shop what it's going to be, but by the time we're already going, Lumpy's is open at 6 o'clock.
Right.
And so as we turn south onto Foot Street, you're competing against congestion of Lumpy's that already has people there. We would have had to close the street Friday night probably to be able to accommodate that.
But the apartments are the big issue.
Right, and I've already had the discussion with Jake. He doesn't have tenants in his apartment yet, and I made him aware that, we're gonna be closing the street once it was approved, and his tenants aren't the same number of tenants as that you have on the south side of.
Yeah, it's only like 2 apartments.
Correct.
We're gonna be living
Yeah.
above ours.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be taking up 4 vehicles this summer. Plus, we're opening an event center right next to Legato's, which is hopefully gonna hold at least 100 people per event.
From 9 to noon.
I don't know what time, baby showers, birthday parties, plus we're gonna be living above the
So,
shop. So
We
with
use
4
the public
vehicles.
street for apartment parking, and we can't touch that, but we can touch the retail parking, bringing people to town.
Actually, parking on Main Street, I think is 2-hour parking, except overnight, right?
No, I'm talking about Foot Street.
Oh, I thought you meant Main Street.
I may have said misspoken, so.
Like you as a resident, I don't even know where we're gonna park now, with having 4 vehicles, like, my
Something
main
for another
concern is
day.
I don't even know where we're gonna park now without closing it.
We're gonna put rentals and stuff down there, which I think is a great idea, the mixed use, it's a wonderful use of the old buildings. But for every rental, they ought to have at least 1 parking space for it. Whether they're renting a $20 space from one of the folks that owns a lot in town, but some way provide a parking for their tenant, rather than us gift as a city those parking spaces permanently to a tenant. That's a subject for another day.
There's no parking spaces reserved for tenants.
Well, we kind of said that though, because what he was saying is we can't go on the other side because we'll interfere with the tenant parking in that building.
There isn't any 9 that like, there isn't 2-hour parking 9 to 5 basically in
They're
downtown.
there full-time, the businesses are only open certain hours of the day.
So we are, we just didn't say it that way. We're filling that south foot with tenant parking.
Karen or Joanne?
Just as a partial resident who's just moved back, I used to come back about once a month from Kansas City. And it was always during the summertime to make sure that I also got to be a part of the farmer's market, or got to be exposed to the farmer's market, because this was my hometown. And I noticed multiple times that the people that are parking for the farmer's market, I'm talking about the customers, not the people that are actually furnishing the goods, but the actual visitors to the farmer's market are only on the street maximum of maybe 15 minutes. They're on foot, it's a small square area to deal with. If they couldn't find a parking space there, right that alley, they could park on the grass. Right, you know what I'm talking about, that alley on the east side of the park? You can go down there. That's also where we parked for Canal Days. That's where many vendors parked for Canal Days. I don't know whose property that is, if that still belongs to the park or the city, or if that belongs to the apartment complex there, the apartment building. But those spaces were easy to get in and out of. And I don't know if you've noticed here lately, but since COVID, we have a lot more people that are having problems getting around. Their mobility has been limited. I am one of those. So if I can't find a parking space, which I tried to find for the National Road for 3 days, I couldn't find a parking space that would open up. So I had to keep driving around, finally said, screw it, I'm not coming back. But I did come back. I'm glad I did, because that was a great experience to go in there and see what all the things. And I don't want people, whether they're visitors or whether they're residents, to miss out on that opportunity to take in everything that we offer. The last time I was at the farmer's market, when it was still down at the Centennial Park, there were 6 vendors down there, and this was near the end of the season. So I was thrilled to death to still have 6 vendors. I've been down there when there was 1 or 2 when the weather was bad, but I never saw it less than 6 except for that. I think it's a great experience. It's a great way to present our city, to offer these things. Not only the shops on the street, the coffee shops, the restaurants, and all of that. It's what makes us a neat opportunity. But I think that we have to take into account the retail. And it was amazing the day that I was in there, and this was right after they opened. The place was packed. And there were a lot of people that were parking on the streets. Not just for them, but also for like the restaurant, the pizza place, and for 125. But of those people that I noticed that were parking, more than half of them were having trouble with mobility. So I think that's something else to take into consideration, because when you take away those parking spaces that are along there that are close to the entrance of whatever your business is, I think you're doing a disservice to the people that are having problems with mobility. And that's a good portion of our population right now.
so just during my survey too, I'll just add to that. There is only one, to my knowledge, one handicapped spot in all of downtown.
Yeah, and it's always taken.
No, just, there's two.
There's three.
And you have to have a placard to park there.
There's like 2 in the Medi Center parking lot and 1 in front of the gazebo now.
Yeah. But just something to take into
In a dream
consideration.
world, we'd have a quick pull-up spot for Legatos. I don't know if they're here tonight. They're getting ready to open. They're gonna need that quick dash parking. I think we're all gonna want them to have one, right? Someplace, so.
And, you know, the problem is, you know, they're trying to grow the farmer's market.
Yeah.
If you only have 6, it's one thing, but if you're trying to get to 10 or 12, there's just not enough space for
Yeah.
them there for them.
But this might be a temporary idea. So, Thank you for
And
listening.
a lot of times, I think, Troy, you made this point, there are people that bring trucks or trailers, especially in most places you go to see a farmer's market. That's one of the big issues, is how do we park those?
Again, I mean, the farmer's market just suggested, when I came through here, suggested north of 40 because it was the easiest way to solve the issues that were at hand. If you guys want to address bigger issues at hand, I'm happy moving it to the south side of US 40 and close Foot Street between US 40 and the alley and be able to incorporate the park into that, but I still have to be able to pull vendors onto the street and close the street down. So that it's your guys' call on where you want to take it, but my suggestion is we have to either be north of 40 or south of 40. And again, for like the one event where we would overlap, I'm happy to go north of that, but I would not be able to do that I can't go to in front of Lumpy's parking lot and close that down.
And the times that the people that I pull out of
Yeah.
there, they are trailers.
Yeah.
They're vehicles with trailers that usually park in there during my event.
On the south
that
side?
I would be giving up to you and have to park them somewhere else.
On the north side.
On the north side.
Yeah.
So this is all starting in June, right? It's not starting tomorrow.
August.
My question is, can't we all get together and work out a compromise of some sort where we're all in agreement what's going to work best for the town? You know, and maybe it's not what we agreed to last time, I don't know. But surely there's a way, because it's all good. The businesses need it, I understand that part. Farmers market's good too. It's going to bring people into town, which is what we all want. So there's got to be a way we can all coexist and make this work.
Jim, with that, I echo, I think everybody here wants it to work. I want the farmer's market to work. He wants my business to succeed, I know that.
We do
have
too.
a difference in
all of
how
us
to
do too.
function this, but we all want it to go.
Yeah.
So on that point, I think we're all together.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's the whole purpose of Cambridge City Main Street.
So my guess is
develop.
we're not going to work it out right here and now is what I'm saying.
I don't think
You know what I'm saying?
Why does it
So-
have to move from where it was last year? Are they just not renting anymore?
That's a private lot,
They just didn't
and
wanna do it.
the whole goal there is, what I've heard is the private lot, we got permission to be able to have it. Ultimately, I think the Legion wants to get that lot back and build a new facility on what that lot is, and then remove the existing structure. But that's not my call. So I don't know that. I'm just saying, as I'm trying to develop and go forward, I want to be, so one of the things we have is they like having it where the visibility off of 40. That's what we're trying to get back to, that visibility right directly on 40.
People, impulse stoppers.
Correct. And the other thing is we're trying to get local, more than outside visitors, we're really trying to get local residents to come downtown. The coffee shop is a great anchor for that at the same time this farmer's market is. So as long as we're in close proximity, even Lumpy's is a great draw for downtown for what we're trying to do with the farmer's market. I don't care which side we go, I just would like to be one way or the other on Foot Street.
Well, one of the things we've done downtown is for the jar show, we've had the jar show in the parking lot of the pharmacy. I have no, and this is a personal issue, so it's kind of hard to be a representative of the town council and talk about this, but I have no problem with doing a farmer's market in that parking lot. We've done other events there, and it just means I have to inconvenience the pharmacy. And that's the issue, they're open till noon. So I could talk to them. That's the only, the apartment renters can park on foot actually, if it's available, for that time period.
Could the drive-through still be open for the?
We don't have a drive-through anymore.
Oh, there isn't a
No,
drive-through?
so that's why it's all
Okay.
parking. So I would offer.
Can we just do that in a random meeting that we have and bring that as part of the table for our discussion, what we're
I'd
doing?
recommend having some kind of public meeting where it can all be
Yep.
hashed out. And, you know, one of us or two of us could show up to help mediate that, and we just work out what's
That'd be great,
best.
Jim.
I'd be glad to sit on that.
That's
Sound
Cambridge
good?
City.
We all want the same thing. We all want it to grow, we all want to make money.
Well, I think that's a nice compromise, though,
Yeah.
in that you still have the visibility on 40, you still got foot traffic that can park nearby.
So we still have, I mean, we voted yes to start this in June. We have two more meetings before then. We can change it based on this meeting.
That would still allow the pharmacy though, to have those other.
So my recommendation
street parking
is
on
we
that side.
table this here,
I don't know.
have the public meeting, work it out, figure out what we want to do, and then come back and revisit it next month.
Thank you.
Would you like me to schedule that meeting? I had a feeling that was coming, so.
I mean, you're the one that's saying it.
Do you think that you can get an answer by then, Jim?
Yeah, by when, like, the date?
By then?
The only thing I
Next meeting,
The only thing I can say that I appreciate that and I like that, but because it's private owned, that's what we're trying to get away from to some degree. We want it to be long-term possibility. If next week or next month you sell this, I'm at the same problem with trying to develop. But that's how we have to look at things when we're trying to do something from a town perspective and do something that continues to grow. We've been successful with the second Saturdays in Cambridge City because of why and how we do it and where it is, and that's for all of our events.
Yeah, there are many towns that they close off roads, they even put tents up, the town puts tents up for people.
Yeah.
And Sheridan, for example, Tipton, et
Down by
cetera,
Big
so.
Boys or down by Europa or?
I'd like to get there, I'd like to have these events be more significant. Maybe we have an interim solution.
Sure. Just table it. What date's the meeting, Jim?
I will let you know. It will be in the next couple of weeks. Is that okay?
Gives us some time before the next board meeting.
Is everybody comfortable moving forward like that?
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks for hearing me out.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
You guys are free to leave if you'd like.
Wasn't ready.
Or you can stay for all the interesting stuff that's coming next.
Sure you don't.
Yeah, thank you. It's right on.
You know what, I didn't put Adam on the agenda if he has anything as a guest.
He does
Sorry,
have
Adam.
something.
See, I'm just worried about this. I just don't care. I don't. I'm wanting to figure out this
He's not on
water.
here.
5 minutes.
Should we go to him next?
Yeah, let's go to Adam.
We're gonna go to you next.
There you go, Adam.
Very good.
Special treatment.
Council, I have two things to go over today. I was told I have a 5-minute time limit though, so it's going to be short. Number one is the soil boring quotes, and number two is current status and spending down the SRF loan dollars we were going to spend by amendment. The first is the soil quotes. I think Jim has sent the copies to you to review. So really just looking for.
You didn't see it.
Uh-oh.
He didn't.
So
You
they
gotta
stopped
send
with
it to
you?
me, not Jim.
So council hasn't seen them?
No.
No. Okay. We received 4 quotes. They're all over the place. Quote from CTL Engineering was for about $15,000. Quote from Terracon was about $13,000. The quote from Alton Witzig was $6,200, and the quote from Patriot was $4,800 plus $1,200, $6,000. So why are they all over the place? Different firms feel they need different levels of evaluation. Oddly enough, the one that was for $13,000 at Terracon said we're pretty familiar with the soil, so we think we can be on the lighter end, but they're still at $13,000, where there's 2 others that are right about the $6,000 mark.
So I did take a look at them. I think there was one at 6,000, or there was one at 6,200 or something like that, or $200 difference.
Yes.
And I did call and talk to Ann and ask if there's any reason one was selective over another, and she said you worked with both, and there was really no overriding to choose pick one over the other, correct?
That's correct. We've worked with all 4 of these firms on a variety of projects, and for something special, maybe one would be better suited than the other, but this is an elevated storage tank. You poke the same holes every tank you build and look for the same thing. So in this case, I don't feel there's a need to lean on anything specialty, so all the quotes from our review and from their experience.
So really, we're kind of required.
Satisfactory, all of them.
Yes.
Yeah, so really, we're kind of required to take the lowest bid unless there's an overriding reason not to.
Right.
And there isn't in this case. So my recommendation is take the lowest bid as the.
Is there a requirement for Bob to look at these before we vote? Or not? Or do we not look at quotes like that?
Did you hear that, Bob?
Yes, I mean, yes, generally you have to take the lowest, but I mean, if they're doing it in different ways and there's a reason for doing another one, you completely have that right, you just have to show that in your minutes.
Yeah, but my understanding, and Adam can tell me if I'm up with that, but they all do what we have asked them to.
They do. They all meet their request for quotes. They all provided dinner for us today, and they all. Let's see what else. And also the other piece is that what we're approving today is just to select one, not actually signing off on their agreement on their contract. That'll be the next step. This is just to pick them to get the contract for Bob to review.
Okay, great.
Yep. And I think the local.
But you are basically accepting their quote for this action, are you not?
Do you hear that, Adam? You want us to accept the quote tonight, right?
I'd like you to.
Yes, he'd like us to, them to.
Yeah, then
Yes.
it's subject to their final contract, I understand.
Correct. And what's the lowest one, Adam?
It was about 6,000. It was 6,000. Spot on. Yep.
$6,000 from Patriot.
Yeah.
Yes, the Patriot Engineering. Yep.
Make a motion to accept the lowest bid from Patriot for $6,000, subject to contract approval.
Second. Thank you, council.
We have a second, and we have a motion and a second to accept the lowest bid from Patriot, $6,000 for the boring. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now you can go on.
Next item comes with visual aids. This is the SRF, too many things in my hand. This is the SRF loan spend down. Last meeting, a couple meetings ago, there's two pieces of paper there, one's hidden in the middle. We talked about spending the loan dollars on a water main replacement or on valve repairs. At that time, we thought there was about 5 or 6 valve repairs and 1 water line. Since then, we dug into all the mapping, and we have to show you what's in front of you now. On the image, there's red dots and blue dots. The red dots are what we knew were there before. The blue dots are what we found out after doing the mapping. Putting numbers to it, we thought there were 5 or 6. There's actually 28. So what does that mean? That means that there's 22 some valves that are buried in an unknown condition. The table included with the graphic lists out some of the notes about how they're buried. Some of them are under a layer of pavement, some of them are under a foot of dirt, some of them are only under an inch. We dug those up for you and didn't charge you for that. But we need to do something with that. I feel we need to do something with that, and I'm sure Joe might agree with me. So there, in my mind, we just found out that there's 28 question marks in the water system. Maybe.
Got it down to 28, we're good.
Yeah. Maybe we dig up those 28 and they all work. Chances are that's not the case though, because they've probably been buried for a couple decades. So we've got a decision to make. Do we want to prioritize this one water main replacement, or would we rather investigate these? My recommendation is that we investigate these, because these are much easier to forget and not do later, and that one water main is always going to be in the back of your mind that you know you got to go and hit, right, Joe? But these 28 mysteries are a different story.
So we do it while it's at the front of our minds
and while we have the resources to deal with the unknowns. Because each of those 28 might be $100 to dig it up, or it could be $15,000 to isolate things and replace a valve. We just don't know. While we have that money left over in the loan, my recommendation would be, let's dig these up and have the contractor fix them in whatever condition they're in. And then hopefully we can get through the whole list. But if they're all worst case scenario, then
would you prioritize these somehow, Adam?
I think we would. Now how we would, I think that's the next step. First we wanted to understand where council was leaning with the need of going after these versus the other.
Did you review it with Joe and Joe Dione?
No, not in depth, no.
No, the feedback on the missing valves came from Joe and his team, Chris, Ken, and everybody, but
we haven't had a chance to circle back with them on that. Yep.
To prioritize these, would you need to dig all of them first and then look at them? Or, I mean, because
You know, and that's
how do you
part
prioritize if you don't
That's
know
part of the
what's
discussion
still
I
in?
wanted to have today. So one is prioritizing with knowing, and that would be getting Joe and his team out there to dig some of these up beforehand, so we can at least tell the contractor, you know, she's frozen and won't spin, or we dug it up and it's leaking like a sieve. Then we know how to prioritize. Otherwise, it's starting with what appears to be the most critical, starting on the biggest pipes that are closest in the heart of town, and then working our way out from there.
How many of these, looks like about half are to fire hydrants?
Yes.
Wouldn't those be a priority from a safety standpoint?
Their priority, yep.
So that's about half, at least.
So then once you get to the amount that we have, then are they done?
Right, yes.
Wow.
So the strategy on how to investigate and spend on these valves is something I want to figure out after we decide, if we do, that we want to go with the valves over the water main. And there's plenty of ways, whether it's prioritize the ones on the hydrants, the ones, you know, out of the plant, the ones under 2 feet of asphalt. Certainly more discussions to have on that. This was just a lot more unknowns than we were expecting to see.
And the feeling is this will use up the rest of the ourselves, that's what I
think so, yep.
So if it's buried in the grass, could the guys
They
do
could.
that instead of the ones, and then the contractor could do?
That's been one option, is between now and, you know, we give them a month to go through it, or whatever the timeline works out as, and dig up what we can, function test what we know, and that might take the list and knock a couple off, or maybe it'll tell us we need to do it sooner.
Well, if we do that though, if we go the route you're talking about, at least we will have, hopefully we'll have a good idea of what our existing system is, and we will know before we go adding on to it without knowing what we already have. I'd like to know what we already have is functioning properly first. You know.
That's why I prioritize, you know, fix what you got before you go buy another car. Right.
And there's about, were you saying $200,000 in this? So that's about, whatever that number is, 3,500 per.
Right.
Whatever the number is.
Something around there. A brand new valve, material cost you about $1,500. So
you're just
depending
looking
on-
for some direction from us tonight?
Yeah, so what I'm looking from you, council, tonight would be a direction on, would you like to switch gears and move forward with just the valve replacement, or do we want to continue to prioritize the water mains?
What's the fear on the valve replacements being problems for us? If you had to guess, Joe or Chris or yourself?
Fear of what? Like
fear of it failing.
If they do.
The valve
Yeah,
replacement.
so the unknowns are, there's if they fail and if they're stuck right now, we've got a problem and we don't know about it. If they're stuck closed and the system's supposed to be looped, he's got a problem when he needs to shut things down and he doesn't know about it.
That's been an issue in the past, is getting a full shutdown.
When you're trying to fix a leak
When we're
somewhere.
trying to fix it, and when we can't get a full shutdown, that's when we have to call people in, because we don't have the equipment to do it. So if we can get them fixed,
It could save us money.
it could save us money.
So you think the
Yeah, we don't
valves-
have to call in that
Right.
contractor to come in and do the work.
I mean, an emergency call with Cooley's 15.
It's never
It's
that
not cheap.
It's never that cheap.
No, it's,
Yeah.
A hydrant being stuck wouldn't be cheap either, would it?
No, especially not stuck closed.
During an emergency.
Yep. Or if they're stuck open, then you can't replace them. I mean, without shutting off your water system. And that's equally hazardous.
Thoughts?
couldn't Joe determine which ones are at the most risk, and then you could work something out and just start with the most, what we think are the most risky ones? And
I think that's what we talked about, different flavors of this. What I'd like to know though is if you want to continue looking at the valves, or would rather keep the water main on the
I'd rather
list.
look, I think the valves, I definitely look at the valves. I would.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'd like to know that what we have is functioning and working right.
As long as it's on our mind.
Add more.
This is kind
Our
of
next step
alarming when
is-
you read this with the
Yeah.
hydrants.
You know, our next step is going to SRF and saying we're going to spend the money on whatever. And I'd like to tell them that this is the whatever we're going to spend the money on.
I guess I'd like a recommendation. None of us are qualified to make this decision. Sorry. I think, what's the recommendation?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I said it a few times. you should do this over the water main, 100%.
Sorry if I missed that.
No, my recommendation is.
That made it very clear.
That's a clear recommendation. A few-fold. Why?
I want to know on tape.
You're gonna forget about these 28 question marks throughout town. Not anyone in particular, not pointing any fingers, but statistically, it's a lot easier to forget about 28 little question marks than one big water main project. These are unknowns that have been there for how long? And the longer they sit there, the bigger of an unknown they get, and I'm uncomfortable with that.
Well, let's do
These
it.
present
Let's
more
do
risk
that
for the
then.
town than the water
Yep.
main does.
I don't want someone's house to burn down because of
Me
fire.
either.
No,
I had no idea that it
No, I
was
didn't
like
either.
this. Yeah.
It's scary.
Do you need a motion or just a consensus?
Just a consensus.
You got it. Is that right, Jim?
Yes.
I'm defer to you.
You have your consensus.
I'm gonna live over 5 minutes, but thanks for your time.
Good job.
Thank
Good
you.
job, Adam.
No, that's a good discussion.
Thank you, Adam. All right, moving on to the progress report on the blighted properties. Joe, do you have anything on that? Blighted properties?
Blighted properties, they have not done anything down here on Front Street. There was a gas leak down there last week, but as far as in there, they put mulch down at 411 and 415. Like from the timeline, one of those should be on the market, but it is not finished. I've looked in the windows.
They've been working the last couple of days, Joe, on that four,
Okay.
I think it's 411, so I think it's
Yeah, I
maybe
think
getting
so.
close.
So they're getting close, there's
Yeah.
mulch around.
Yeah.
That was the easier of the two to fix.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There are a couple broken windows on 415 on the backside. The other ones have not been, and probably gonna have to send letters to the two on Church Street. Miller's that he tore down there on Church, East Church. It's still open. I don't know what he's filling that in with, or when he's gonna do it. And then down there at Moisteners where they got that lot, something needs to be done with that foundation. That's still open there.
Both on Church.
Both on Church, yeah.
Did you hear anything about the property on Parkway Drive?
I have not gotten anything back,
I know
so
you sent a letter.
hopefully that letter got,
Yeah.
Did you send that registered?
yes.
And you haven't
I
gotten
haven't
the
gotten
keys?
anything back yet, so.
I did get an email from the gentleman that owns the Blue House there on Main Street. I forget the number on it.
418, 418
He did have somebody in town last week to take a look at that, and he said he went through, looked at it, feels comfortable that they're going to be able to repair it, and
They did clean up. I was down there this afternoon, and they did pull some of the, put it on the porch.
he told me what they're doing is they're ordering supplies, and then he'll be back in a couple, 2 to 3 weeks to start working on the porch and such. So.
Nice.
Cool. I did not get to, sorry, I did not get up to, on the hill up there for that house up there behind the library. I did not get up there to check and see.
Westview
High
Drive.
Street. Westview Drive.
Westview Drive.
To see what has been done, but nothing, and they were on Jones, that house. I had talked to that owner, he's trying to get a hold of previous owners to see if he can start before October, because that was sheriff's sale.
Because he can't do anything till.
He can't do anything until October, a year for the homeowners to come back and contest that.
But the good thing is it's a new buyer, so maybe it will get in.
So maybe he can talk to them and see if they'll release it sooner rather than later.
Right on.
That's the modular home there on
Yeah,
Third.
it's pretty.
Third and Jones.
Yes,
Yeah,
pretty
it's-
rough
yeah.
straight,
Yeah.
shape.
Wasn't bad a few years ago, but it's getting.
Yeah, it's bad.
Okay, thank you. Update on the Wi-Fi in the park.
Have you guys had your meeting?
Oh, you mean, yeah.
Taylor system?
So we're still waiting to have that meeting with Taylor.
She's reached out to me. I have not been able to schedule it. So it's not Taylor that's the problem.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's this person sitting next to Gary.
Jim.
Jim is his name though.
Okay, so I'll table that for the next meeting.
Yeah. Well, while we're on Wi-Fi, let's talk about the quote for the partnership with Main Street. So I have to talk back and forth with them and with Bob about the contract that they sent in. And they did adjust that so that it only is for this this amount that for the downtown Wi-Fi. We did have some issues with their language, but they did send an email that I guess we'll use as their agreement to, correct, Bob?
Yes, I don't know why they couldn't change it. It's the old excuse, well, this is our form, we can't change our form. But then they overwrote it with their email, and keep that intact, I think we'll be okay.
So what we're going to do, Bob also created an agreement here between the town and Main Street.
But we've already given our money.
I understand that, but the issue is, for the State Board of Accounts, we really need an agreement.
Happy to sign that agreement.
So,
We got a place for you.
so we're going to just sign off on this, got the checks, and then what we'll need is also a motion to accept this quote from NLBC to go forward with the downtown internet.
Jim, I'd probably do two votes. One is to accept the quotes, so you have the contract with NLBC, and then the second vote would be to technically approve that three-way contract.
Okay.
Accept the donation with that.
I don't think we have to do that. So I would entertain a motion to accept this contract with NLBC for the downtown internet.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Have a motion and a second to accept the contract with NLBC for downtown internet. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then next we would need a motion to enter into this agreement with Cambridge City Main Street and the Chamber of Commerce, Cambridge City Chamber of Commerce, to split the cost 3 ways of that contract.
So moved.
Okay.
Second?
Got a motion and a second to enter this agreement with the parties as mentioned, to split this 3 ways. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Okay.
I'm on the board of Main Street, so I don't think I can vote on a contract.
I was waiting on you to go, just kidding.
No. Bob will tell us.
Okay,
He passes it.
got it. Okay, so you'll need to sign the agreement. And
Yeah,
there's one for Troy.
then we'll get it, yeah.
and one for-
Before we leave. All right, that's it for that then. Thank you, everybody. Next up is further discussion on sale of property on South Walnut Street.
Do we have anything on that yet, Bob?
No, nothing yet.
Okay, April. Alrighty.
Just kidding.
It's tabled.
Yeah, that was good.
On to new business. So we have a resolution here to put forward that authorizes me, Jim McLean, to sign NDOT documents. This is for the
CCM Community Crossings.
yeah, Community Crossings grant. There was a previous one that didn't have my name to approve to sign for it, so we need to do a resolution 1/2025 to allow me to do that.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All right, have a motion and a second
Oh my.
for resolution 1/2025, authorizing me to sign for NDOT documents. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Anything to have Jim do some work.
Yeah, I appreciate either of
Have
them.
you keep signing, right?
Gotta earn that money.
And then we have a pay application number 2 to Pride Mark in the amount of $24,410.25. That will be paid out of CDBG funds for the performance venue. I think this is for
This is,
materials to get started on that. So
and like I said, we just needed a motion.
we need a motion to approve this pay application.
So moved.
Okay.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the pay application number 2 from Pride Mark in an amount of $24,410.25. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Trade you.
Yeah, I just need to sign it. Here you go. 2 to sign.
Moving on. approval of small wedding in the gazebo for April 12th. You have something on that?
Yeah, they're just gonna be, the preacher, the bride and the groom, parents, and that's it. No cake, no confetti, no nothing.
I make a motion, we approve the small wedding for the gazebo, in the gazebo.
Second.
All right, motion to approve the wedding in the gazebo on April 12th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then we have a family reunion, Henderson family reunion in Shelter 1 for June 21st.
I'll make a motion, we approve that one also.
Have a motion and a second to accept that family reunion on June 21st. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then staff reports. Richard, do you have anything today?
I don't really have anything other than our fuel tanks are just almost ready to go now, finally, a year later. I don't know if they put the fuel in them today or not.
No,
but
not yet, waiting on them to fuel and put the new hoses on, and they'll do a final test on it.
the tanks are installed, electric's done. We're just waiting on that now, so we're close.
Good.
That's
That's all you got? Awesome.
I talked to Gary Green today about the tornado siren. He's under the impression it's all working properly now. He said the problem wasn't our problem, it was Wayne County's problem. And he put a booster over here to hopefully pick up the signal better.
Is tomorrow the
Wednesday.
statewide?
Should be
Okay, Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Oh,
So
I think it's in it tomorrow? The news
thought it
said
was
it's
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Okay.
At
Oh,
10:30.
the annual one.
Yeah.
I was talking about the weekly, yeah.
Oh, okay.
The monthly, I should say.
What time tomorrow is it?
10:30. So it should go off
It should go
tomorrow
tomorrow.
at
And let me
10:30.
know if it doesn't, and I'll get a hold of him right away.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're hoping to get the Narcan box up tonight. The product came in. Hopefully get it mounted tonight. It'll be available in for anyone that needs it in the front of the fire station.
Wow.
Other than that, I think everything's going pretty smooth.
Do you have any idea when you're gonna get the Christmas lights?
They're hoping to get them all down tonight. They're working on them right now. We started meetings earlier on Monday nights, so most of the little stuff's down. We got just some big stuff down to finish up.
And Jeff, one of the things you and I exchanged messages on was the number of calls you were sent out on which are related to ambulance or, and it was, what did I say, 70%?
Roughly. That's what it's at least 70% pretty much all the time.
So Jim, that's what we talked about at the meeting before this last one. So this has been 2 months. How many runs you're going to serve on that are not related to?
There's absolutely no
fire department emergencies.
Yeah.
So I think what we're going to continue the conversation, figure out how we can send a message or
Yeah,
prepare a
right.
message for the council to.
When it started out, we were doing just trauma and codes and trauma. And they decided that wasn't fair because it was too hard for their dispatchers to, because Cambridge and Hagerstown both wanted to do it that way. And we started out doing it that way, and then they changed their minds and started dispatching us on. There's like 22 things they dispatch us for.
So what was requested, I think, at the January meeting was that we would look at this and determine if there's a way to communicate to the county or to whomever that we need to reduce our number of.
At my level, I've done all I could. So it's going to have to go to
Wasn't there some kind of agreement to that effect?
a long time. I would say a long time ago it was, and then dispatch changed it.
Without approval.
Well,
from
they
the
just
council?
most of the departments wanted it because they're small and they need the runs. We have enough runs. We don't need to be running all of them. So with the agreement with the fire association, and that group decided that was okay. They were okay with it. They decided for all the departments.
So you have no choice at this point?
At this point, I had no choice. I mean, if we don't go, then they call somebody else, and we don't want another department coming to our community.
Isn't there some kind of county-wide emergency medical management group that reviews that or something?
So yeah.
That's what we need to find out.
Yeah, okay.
Jeff, have the number of false alarms diminished any?
Some, but we're still waiting on the letters so we can send letters out when we do have one. Bob's working on getting the
Okay, so they're going out
letters
soon.
documented for us. So we have something to to send to anybody that does it. We send them warning, and we send them a copy of the ordinance with it,
Yeah.
so they understand what's going on.
All right, is that it?
I think so.
Thanks, Jeff. Joey, you have anything you want to bring up?
Yes, I've got some quotes for some tree cut in the park that need to come down. They're pretty bad. We did get the quote for the fence at the cemetery. Debbie has that. We did get the new mower today. Cemetery. Yes, thank you. We needed it. I do have a few quotes for the building, the water plant, mortar work, and here. Had two companies come. We've gotten one. Chris has one estimate for the well-filled roof and the well houses out there. I do have those to give to you guys. And the park, we got a lot of that mulch that was up and put it back into the playground. We do need to fill in around the outside. We started that today. Question is, there were a few parents over there asking if the park was open, the playground area.
They're playing on it.
Yeah, they are playing on it. I told him, I said, you can see, we still have to backfill here. You're gonna have to, I mean, by the sign, it did open March 1st. Okay, I mean, they need, if we want them in there, or I can tape it back off. We're trying to get that backfilled this week, so we don't have that to worry about. So, if you want to leave it open, I just need to know if we want to leave it, tape it off until we get it filled. And then where the teeter-totters were that I took out, the post, do you want those left in, or do you want those taken out? The piping.
The pipes that.
Yeah.
Are we going to put anything else back in that area, or is it just?
Not
I don't think so, no.
I would recommend taking those out, don't you think, Debbie?
I saw a kid flipping around on it.
Yeah, I mean, some
I was, the only thing I was thinking,
They're playing on it, yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
The only
we'll
thing
have
I
to
was thinking if we
backfill
could
those
make
holes,
a
but-
bike rack out of it. You know, just between the two posts, just to put the bikes, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, it's not something we would need to do now, I just need to know, or would like to know,
Make it come out, I just.
you know,
think bike
if we're gonna
rack-
take them out before we go in there and reseed everything.
I'd say let the park committee discuss that if they have another idea. And
Any idea on the cabling around the park and those posts that are all rotted out?
We
We've talked about
changed,
it in the past, but.
what did they change, 6, 7 of them? They've been switched out, we still have a few more. The ones where those new footpaths are, that Milestone put in for the park, those are not set yet, because we still need to get in there and dig some stuff out. And see when, is Milestone gonna come back in there to finish that one on the
I need to
side?
get a hold of them, but that was the plan, that when they, you know, open back up in the spring, that they'd come in and just put that little patch in there to get to the edge.
Okay, because we can get that dug out. Now Milestone will be, they're supposed to be in here tomorrow to start the paving for this year. They called, Chris has got all the valves marked, so we don't have this issue, hopefully. But the 7, 8 streets, they're supposed to start milling, so we'll see, they start that.
Okay, good.
And other,
So let me ask you this, on the backfilling, would you, I'm guessing you'd feel more comfortable if we just close that off so you could
That's
get
what I
that
was gonna
done?
ask.
I would until we get it done. We should be able to get it. Now, we do have a burial this week, but we should be able to get a lot of that backfilled and leveled off. So we filled in low spots with.
I think it'd be a lot safer to.
I do too.
To rope it off.
100%. So we can tape it off again until we get that done.
Yeah.
And then kind of take it down. So, but they feel pretty sturdy, the new equipment, so. Parents were playing on it too, so.
That's not you, though.
Oh, no, I
Go down the
wasn't.
slide.
You didn't test them?
No, I did not.
So for anybody that doesn't know, there is a grand opening for the playground. What was the date, Debbie, you remember?
April 4th, maybe?
Sounds about right, yeah.
Friday, April 4th.
No, it was April 6th.
6?
That'd be a Sunday, right?
That's a Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
So look for an announcement on that.
April 6th, that's right.
So we're just gonna keep it shut down until further notice as far as playing on that equipment goes.
those are those quotes for trees and the building maintenance. Coming over.
I'd say give us a chance to look those
Oh,
over.
yeah.
Okay. All right, I do want to, we need to introduce a ordinance 2-2025, which everybody's familiar with what this is going to be about. It's laying there in front of you. It's regarding the changing the town code regarding.
I can go through some of that, Jim.
Sure, go ahead.
This is that situation where you have a home in an industrial area. Clearly, your code does not allow residences in an industrial area, but because it was pre-existing, it was allowed to stay as a non-conforming use. Well, their lender said there was a problem, so we had talked about actually changing the zoning, which would be changing the zoning map for that block, which would have helped solve the problem. However, the issue with that was to change the zoning map required 2 public hearings with 10 days public notice of both the Plan Commission and Council. There just simply was not time to get that accomplished by the end of March, which is when they needed to close on their deal on this house. Consequently, then, I figured out maybe another answer to skin the cat just a bit differently, and that is, right now, your zoning code says that non-conforming uses, if that property is totally destroyed, it cannot be replaced. That's very common in towns, so that it's their way of eliminating non-conforming uses, trying to get any new building put up to comply with what is currently required. More times than not, this is reversed. It's when a business is in a residential area. So if that business gets torn down, whatever, you can't replace it with another business. At that point, the new code has to apply and it can only be a house. Well, this is a little bit of reversal where you have a house in an industrial area. Right now, the code said that if it was destroyed more than 75%, it could not be rebuilt. Apparently, their lender was concerned with that before they could insure it, get proper protection on it, that if that house was ever completely destroyed, they could never rebuild it, which is going to be problematic for their loan. Therefore, what this ordinance does is to not change the zoning map, but just change your zoning code that says in those limited instances where you have a house in an industrial area as a non-conforming use, if that house is destroyed, it can be rebuilt, and you can ignore that 75% rule that will still apply on all of your other zoning areas. This seems to satisfy them, and what has to happen is the ordinance is introduced in council, you refer it to the Plan Commission, and since I kind of could see in the future thinking that you were going to refer this, it's already going to be in the paper this Wednesday for the Plan Commission meeting on the 26th, so that they would then consider it. If they certify it with approval, you're going to meet right after that and then accept their recommendation and have all this done by the end of March, if that's what everybody desires. But I think this is the least obstructive way to get this done, and hopefully they will appreciate accommodating this particular property, but doing so in a way that really should not adversely affect the town.
Everybody understand what's going on? Yeah. And what this affects a house selling, everybody's familiar where that's at, and it's some people from out of town and in the area that want to move into our town, so I think it's, to accommodate them is a good thing, so what we...
Is if you ever then change this area to non-industrial, make it back residential or something else, which I think still needs to be a complete revisit of your whole zoning maps, this will become irrelevant for that particular house.
Right.
But in the meantime, this will hopefully accommodate them so they can go ahead and close.
Yeah, it's a good short-term fix.
So we need a motion to refer this to the Planning Commission, Bob, is that what we need?
That is correct.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to refer ordinance number 2-2025 to the zoning
Planning Commission.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to refer ordinance 2-2025 to the Planning Commission for them to act upon.
Conduct a public hearing.
Yeah.
With the 10 days proper prior notice. So.
Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
So do they need to sign this then, Bob, this, because this has?
No,
Okay.
not till it
Just-
comes
okay,
back.
not till it comes back.
Right.
Okay.
All right, Bob, you have anything else?
I do not.
Okay, Mike, you have anything?
I don't think so, no.
Debbie?
Yeah, I do have something. I think I mentioned that at the middle school, high school, they have a Future Focus Friday. It's, I don't know, kind of like an organization. And they do all kinds of things with the children. And one of them happens to be community service. And so they asked me if they could do some work in the cemetery or the park, cleaning up sticks,
Absolutely.
flowers. One of the students who's helping her do this, her dad farms the field next to the cemetery, so she picks up flowers in the field every year anyway. So they're going to be starting on Friday in the cemetery, and then they're going to move over to the park if they're not going to be in your way.
No, should be fine. They're going
And
to
just
cemetery.
try to pick up sticks, make it a little easier to mow and
Nice.
We do that every year anyway, right? So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of
Will there,
stuff. A
will
lot of
there be
flowers.
adult supervision on that while that's going on?
Yes, they do. They have teachers
sanctioned,
that,
isn't it?
that's in charge of each group. Did you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just thinking kind of out loud, when we have the adults sign a release saying we're not responsible if one of the kids falls, gets hurt or something, it may not be necessary, if they're willing to do it. Have you talked to them about that at all?
Yeah, they know there could be something. We've done this before. We've used elementary kids to clean up the park, and we've had supervision there, but, you know,
Did we have them
if,
sign anything?
do what?
Did we have them sign anything?
No. No, but we can if you think it's best.
Well, maybe even just a letter from them saying, you know, thanking us for, we thank them for doing that. Sherry, why don't you just write them a letter saying, you know, we appreciate them doing that, and they of course understand that they're releasing us from any liability with it if they just sign the bottom of that letter.
Okay.
I can do that.
That'll work.
Okay.
That'll work. And as Joe said, the cemetery board just bought a new mower for the town, which is always nice. We kind of rotate back and forth.
Yep.
And we accept, because I think we talked about that, Debbie, at the cemetery meeting, that it's actually buying it for the town, so it's a donation to the town, and we voted to accept that donation of that mower.
No, you were getting ready to do that.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to do that.
Perfect.
All right.
So we need to accept it.
Do you want to make a motion to accept that?
I certainly do.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the donation of lawnmower from the cemetery board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And Joe gave me an estimate on that fence, that black wrought iron fence in front of the cemetery. $4,700. I had no idea it'd be that much.
I did not either when I got that.
It's big
but
and heavy.
It is.
It's a lot bigger than you think when you
It
drive
is.
by if you walk up to it. It is big.
It is, and it is broken in a few spots. The way he's talking, he's gonna have to take those out and take them to his shop.
So it's probably a good idea to discuss right now then that I had a discussion with Steve Brower, and there's 2 other trees out in front of there. And he said if he was him, if he was me, he would take them out. And
That big one on the outside of the fence and then that one on the, yeah, him and I discussed that too.
Yeah, that first entrance, that tree, and then going,
he said those will be the next ones to hit the
they will,
fence.
and they'll
Cheaper to
smash
take the
that
tree
fence.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have insurance that covers the cost of the fence repair?
I don't think so.
Active,
No, no. I'll take this to the cemetery board and see what they say about it. I mean, it has to be fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay.
We'll see.
Is that it?
Yep.
Gary?
that's it.
No?
Jim King? I'm not done too. Sherry, you have anything you want to say for us? Any words of wisdom?
Oh, well, you know, yeah, you guys approved with the Co-Alliance on the gas tanks to go in, and we were gonna take that out of the general water and MVH, and you approved almost $5,000. So then they had to call Turpin in to come in and do the electrical work, and that's an additional $2,400. So you guys want me to take that out of the same gas funds? Does that mean it needs to be paid? If so, I want to get a motion on that to pay this.
I'll make a motion to
Take it out of the same
take out the
funds.
same fund, yeah, and go ahead and pay the bill.
Okay.
Have a second?
Second.
A motion second to pay Turpin for their work on the tanks and pay out the same funds as the others. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
That's
Joe,
Is that it?
did you have something?
Yeah, one thing, the fuel tanks that we have out here, just food for thought, with Johnny mowing down here, keep those fuel tanks down here. If I need to get a hold of Keystone and see if they'll fill those tanks, if it's okay with you guys, because it's right here, versus having back and forth, and as far as the cemetery, because we get fuel here for the cemetery back and
Well,
forth.
would he be the only one? Because if I'm going to be tracking by key fobs on, I mean, is he going to be the only one that's going to use that gas, or will you guys are
It
just
would
here
be-
conveniently,
it'd
you're going to
be
use gas?
Johnny and then probably Ken at the cemetery coming down to get fuel. I'm just throwing it out there if that's something you want to do. Or just use the 2 new tanks down at the Miller Building.
We don't have fobs for these tanks.
Not for
No,
here,
These
no.
are not set up like that.
No.
It would just have to be done on a
Same,
log sheet.
Yeah. And that would put more work on sure.
It's not that, it won't be as accurate
No, it
as
won't.
using a key fob.
Right.
We didn't discuss that as an option when we did this before. We didn't think about that, so.
It takes with accountability, that was a big deal, is just have accountability.
I'd say just use the new tanks. I mean, we'll still have some in there because they just
You
fill
got-
these, right?
Yeah, we'll have to use
So,
all that.
and we'll have to
so we
use
pay for
that, and then cancel that one once we get these filled from co-op.
Leaking.
But, so I just need to know I just throwing it out there because it would be easier, faster right here, but.
I got some thoughts on what we'll talk
Okay.
later. Possibly. I've been around those key fob systems for a long time, so, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll stick with the new tanks, is that what we're saying?
I mean, if you want to.
For now, until that gas is used up, but I think there might be some
Sure.
workarounds on that
Yeah.
to still use the fob and account for that, so
Okay.
there's possibly some ways to work around that, we'll talk
Is
about
this
it.
a kind of fob or something?
Similar,
Pretty close, yeah.
different companies probably look different, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just real quick, I want to do a clarification for the Caring for Cambridge date. It was originally for April 26th. We have a conflict with the Boy Scouts that just suddenly came up, and they're responsible for taking nearly 5 to 6 trailers of metal that we don't throw into the dumpsters, so we're going to move that to April 12th. It's not an approval thing, I just want to make sure that...
So April 12th.
April 12th will be the new Caring for Cambridge, and again, it's from 10 to 4.
10 to 4. We're going to put it on our water bills for
Okay.
April.
Yep, terrific, thank
10
you.
to 4, okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
All right, if there's nothing else, we'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Bob didn't have nothing. You didn't have anything else, did you, Bob?
Nope, I have nothing else.
All right, thanks.
All right.
Bye, Bob.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Meeting adjourned.
Enjoy.